record on his computer. Okay. Welcome to Ascended Heart Navigators. This is Nataraja and Meka, Miss Mechanism. We have two very fabulous, very old friends of Meka's, but some really cool individuals that I met in Florida. And I was excited to meet you and to hear some of the things that you were doing. And so this is the New Earth series talk that we're having with the Ascended Heart Navigators. And we're talking about like New Earth and how we're going to move forward in the creation of the world that we want to live in. So we have CJ and Sai.
Their husband.
Sai and then CJ. So CJ.
Yes.
CJ, you are, you have studied, you're the one that has studied performing international beverage ceremonies?
Yes, I do all the international beverage ceremonies, nutrition, master herbalist.
Okay. Yeah, so CJ has been studying and performing international beverage ceremonies for over 20 years. He is a certified nutritionist and master herbalist with a PhD in religious philosophy. He is also certified tea master and is acting tea minister at Guangming Buddhist temple in Orlando, Florida. He is also a druidic tea leaf reading for druid tea leaf readings for those looking for guidance in current affairs. He and his husband, Sai, they both own Tea and Tarot Emporium and events, as well as property managers for Isle of Valhalla. Is that how I'm pronouncing it?
That's right. Yeah,
Valhalla. Valhalla community in Central Florida. CJ's goal is to keep these beautiful beverage art forms alive. He teaches the art of, I've never heard of these before, the art of matcha green tea ceremony, oolong tea ceremony, Brazilian yerba mate ritual, and the Aztec cacao ceremony, all of which can be performed during your Tea and Tarot session. So do you both do the Tea and Tarot sessions, or CJ, is that just you primarily? You both do them?
Actually, it's all three of us, including Cross as well. We all do readings. We all do parties. Meka and I've already done one together in the past, which has been lovely.
Okay.
But we do.
But yes, we do all readings, but just a different medium. It's all same connection, same to your higher self. But me, my medium is crystals. CJ's is tea. Meka's is tarot, and Cross is astrology. But it's basically from the same source and connected points between us and our clients.
Okay, so CJ's husband, Sai. Sai, you are a certified and nationally licensed massage therapist, Reiki practitioner, and crystal healer and intuitive. You have been working with crystal healing and readings for over 10 years. You also own Kalaika. Kalaika, is that how I'm pronouncing it? Kalaika Designs?
Yeah, close. Kalaika.
Kalaika Designs, where he creates beautiful ritual and meditation jewelry pieces and malas to enhance your energy and self-healing practices. So welcome both of you. Thank you for joining us. And in addition to your work with healing and Tea and Tarot and the rituals and ceremonies that you do, it's that's kind of like Meka and I's past together was ceremonies and doing work like that and healing, different healing. But what really also excites me when I met you was the community building and what the actual building of community, the project that you both are working on. But also as we're moving forward in really looking at how we're going to be living differently, both in the physical way, but also in the spiritual, like awakening process of how humans and how we are evolving, or evolved or awakened, and how that looks as we are actually in living in different spaces physically, but also creating community. So I wanted to open up and have you both talk about the project that you're out, the community that you're building and the project you're working on.
Sure. So Sai and I, a few years ago, we actually had a spa. We lived in a $500,000 house on a lake. It was ridiculously expensive for us. It was dual zone, so we had the spa in one building and we had our house in a little cottage. But it was a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety for us to deal with. We downsized everything. We released, even though we loved that home, we released it back into the universe, so to speak, and started kind of thinking about where we wanted to go from there. And we just laid down and watched YouTube videos on all kinds of different living opportunities. We had talked about tiny house living, even shipping containers, all that kind of stuff. And at the moment, we decided to settle on the school bus thing, the schoolies. And so we took a 40-foot school bus, and with the assistance of my uncles in South Carolina, we built out this school bus for us to live in, you know, complete with like washer and dryer and, you know, a big sink and, you know, shower, the bathroom, the whole 9 yards. We did go with like a composting toilet because it makes it easier, especially if you're on the road and you don't have access to a black water tank or a black water dumping station, which is very difficult to find.
Right.
So we were able to kind of create this cool thing, and we traveled. We went and spent a few months up in Pennsylvania. We spent a few months in New Orleans, bouncing around South Carolina here. And then we came across this location, and one of the people that belonged to one of our groups, schoolie groups, introduced us to the owner of this property. And we came out here thinking we were just going to be here temporarily for a few months. And then we were considering selling the bus and then going into a tiny house or something a little different. And we are kind of still looking in that direction on some opportunities. But anyway, we made friends with the owner here, and he and his wife, they live on 7 acres. It's on a lake in Central Florida, and are interested in creating a community, a little community out here that would generate income and be able to sustain ourselves. He already had a solar system in because he put all the solar in and he sells it back because we can't be off grid here, but we're able to sell it back. So a lot of the power, we're able to keep the power bills down. So of course that kept the rent down as well. And then we decided to do events because he was already holding a big event out here once a year, but he loved the idea about doing other events out here. So we're producing a big outdoor witches ball with a dark fairy forest walkthrough for Halloween. Meka and Sai and I were all working on an urban shaman fest that we're doing out here in November. And then we have his big event that happens in January. So it's a really cool space, and we were able to, there was a lot of people looking for space, and a lot of RV parks, they gouge you on rent. I mean, especially for a month. I mean, some of them are like $1,200 a month, and that doesn't even include like electric and things. And we're like, that's not really a sustainable community at all whatsoever, especially in the environment that we're in now. So we created this space, and it's been great so far. We're completely full right now. We do have one temporary space if someone wanted to bring in for, you know, overnight or a few nights or something like that. But our permanent spots, we were able to fill rather quickly, which has been great. But we've been doing a lot of work out here over the past year. Sai is actually the groundskeeper and landscaper, so he's doing a lot. He's been putting a lot of edible plants on the property. So we're mangoes and pineapples, bananas, berries, you name it. He's got it out here growing somewhere. And it's been kind of a neat process because the community gets together. We do little family night dinners together where we cook together in the kitchen, which is why we decided to redo this kitchen as part of that too. So it's been a really kind of neat adventure, and it's become a business opportunity for us too. That's sustainable. It's been affordable for everyone. And it's just been a great experience. And Sai can kind of talk about, you know, his experience with it over the past year as well. But it's been a pretty neat opportunity for us, I think.
There's so many questions that are already popping into my head to explore further. And I'm just going to say them out loud before we move on to Sai's your participation and what you're bringing to the community that you're all building out there. But some of the things that you mentioned, CJ, what was interesting was one was the food system, and really looking at food system as sustainability. And then one of the other ones is, as we're moving and starting to really rethink how we live and how we are getting or gaining income and looking at resources. What are the new ways of earning money or having an income stream as things are shifting so dramatically in our world? So I'm excited to see from your perspective of building a community, and what, because there's one way of looking at it is, oh yeah, everything's falling apart, and then we're not able to get jobs, so on and so forth. But I feel like there's a different thing that we can, or different perspective is like, oh, there is actually, as things are dismantling and changing, there's also incredibly interesting opportunities for new ways of income. So it's the food system, like the income. And then the other thing that really intrigues me is I think that as I've been listening to community building and community projects and living on land together, and I was traveling in South America a lot and working with eco villages and also with different eco communities here in the United States as well, is the living together piece and the interpersonal piece of how you're managing and building community with this very, very fundamental piece, where a lot of people are like, no way, I'm not going to do it because I just can't live with other people and all the conflicts or whatever, and how you're both managing and building community around that.
Well, I'm going to let Sai take all the food questions and the gardening and all that stuff, because that is definitely his specialty, and he can tell you a lot more on that.
Exciting.
But I will talk about the work stuff and the interpersonal stuff, and then Sai can also throw his 2 cents worth in too. But for the job situation, we came in with a really good rent for everyone. That was great for us, great for the owner, and great for the people that are here. And it was affordable, basically. It wasn't like trying to gouge anybody or take advantage. That, I think, was very important to understand.
The financial contribution that you're bringing.
So, correct, because we're able to take money, set it aside for maintenance fees on the property and things like that are going to be necessary as we grow. And it's also allowed us to do improvements on the property already to make it an even better location for everybody. We haven't really had much drama. It's funny because one of the main people that came in was a good friend of mine who I've known for years. And she brought in another couple who they did the Renaissance Festival circuit together. And they were actually looking to do a forge, to do metal smithing and other types of work, which I'll also let Sai talk about because he's connected with them on some of that stuff. But they came to me and said, we'd like to set up a little forge somewhere. So when I talked to the owner, he's like, I've always wanted a forge. I've always wanted to have something like that on the property. And so he already had a shed out back that was built, a nicely sized covered shed. He's like, I'll just clear some of my stuff out of there. We'll clean it up, organize it, and they can put their forge in there. Well, then they also got a kiln. So we're going to be able to do pottery projects out here as well.
Wow.
So she's going to be teaching. So the idea was they do have jobs and whatnot, but what we wanted to do was give them the opportunity. Not only are they paying rent to us, but also a way to make money on the property while they're here, and utilizing their specialties. And it would creates a cool little, like when people come out to visit, we can say, well, this is our forge, and this is where we do pottery classes, and this is where we do gardening classes and cooking classes, because we'll have a nice kitchen to be able to do that. And what everybody that came in, I had the same conversation with them. I said, if there is something that you think you can bring to the community that we could create on the property, where you could make money off the property. We take a percentage of it, but it's a small percentage. And that way they get, you know, a majority of it, because we obviously, if they're using power and things like that, we have to deal with paying for that too. But they're able to pay us back for that while still being able to make money on the property. So like Michael, for instance, he's doing he does stage combat classes, stage combat stunt type classes. And Chelsea does jewelry making classes and pottery classes. And I'll let Sai talk about his stuff, but everybody here has an opportunity to create workshops and things on the property. My big focus is creating events on the property that will bring people out here, like drum circles. We've started out here on a couple times a month. We do those. We're looking at doing some little vendor fairs out here as well, to kind of create that cool environment for everybody to participate. But the idea is that we would love for you to be able to make money off the property that you're paying rent on. And the owner is very open about that kind of thing and loves the idea, because it creates a working community that is also generating flow of cash. And this past year obviously has been very difficult for everybody because of COVID. And the fact that we're an outdoor venue, you know, made it a little bit more appealing to people, because they were looking for places to do things. And we had the largest turnout this year for the event that he's held on the property for the past 10 years. We had almost 200 people out here. So I think people are at that moment where they're trying to look for these opportunities and create that. Now, when it comes to the interpersonal stuff, it's funny because we sort of, when we sit around and do family dinners together, we talk about it a little bit. And I'm definitely the mama on the property. And then Teresa and Ed, they're an older couple that live here, and they're kind of like the wise ones on the property. They're also building a bus out themselves while they have their RV here. And then we have Chelsea and Michael, who I told you run the forge and all that stuff. And so it's funny because we definitely have the different age ranges here, and we all work to help each other out. And we haven't had any drama. Everybody's been very open with each other and friendly, and we work well together, but we also have our own living space. So you're not living with them in one location. You know, we all have our own home that we can go to, and then we get together and do things together. But we also do a lot of things not together. And I think that makes a big difference. When you're living in the same house with someone or trying to do that kind of situation, it makes it a lot more difficult. But this way, that's not necessarily the case, you know? And so it makes it nice for everybody. They can go home and chill out and do what they want to do. And then when they want to hang out, they'll send a text and say, hey guys, you want to get together and have a drink outside, or you want to go hang out by the dock or whatever, and we'll do that. So we haven't ran into any of that. Plus we're keeping it small. It's not like we have 20 or 30 people on the property. We only have literally like 5 families basically, or 2 individuals, you know, a couple, an older couple, and then Sai and myself, plus the owner. So it's not like it's a huge amount of people to deal with, you know. So that's been pretty cool. But when it comes to the food and on all that stuff, with the gardening portion of it, that's all Sai's specialty. That's what he's doing.
Okay, Sai, so we'll turn it over to you as far as the talking about the food portion of the project that you're in the community that you're building out there.
Yes, I'm building a community garden where there's papayas, rosemary, cucumbers, tomatoes, and all those edible things. We try to make it sustainable, seasonal, and try to fill in the gaps where when you go to a grocery store. So all those things that we eat daily, I try to grow on property so the community can have a garden to be sustainable. And kind of supplement that food grocery kind of allotment that you set aside money for. So that can offset that. Piggyback on CJ's community thing, I think having a diverse mindset allows us to kind of fill in the gaps on where we don't have that much experience. So having that community to have the different vantage points and different perspectives, different type of skill sets really makes a functioning, well-oiled community. I do crystal work. Michael does ironwork and forge. Chelsea does ironwork and pottery. CJ does the health stuff. So everybody has their skill set that lends to that community to make it very well-rounded place to be.
Thank you for that. And how important is it for the food production piece? Is that a communal thing, or is that kind of you're doing the gardening, everyone contributes to the work?
Actually, right now I'm taking care of everything. Everybody has more of their stuff setting up and building their infrastructure on things they are trying to bring into the community and bringing money. So I'm handling all the gardening and the fairy forest and all the other maintenance around here.
Is part of the money that's being pulled from this community is paying you for this, or at this point is still voluntary building or contribution that you're?
Well, Sai and I are actually we're kind of getting paid from it, but
Okay.
We've actually been sort of putting money back into the property lately to kind of help get it where we need it as well.
Okay.
And like we are going to be putting tilapia in our ponds, so we'll actually have fish as well on top of that. So then Sai gets to, husband some fish too as well.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Meka, do you have anything that you're wanting to talk? Because there's their questions are popping all in my head. I'm excited.
Well, I know them, so I love your discovery of them. I'm just like witnessing how much you're discovering, because I know they're incredible community builders. How have you noticed, something like, traumatic, like, COVID on the community has actually turned into a blessing. I'm watching people of high frequency turn everything into a higher blessing opportunity. And I'm witnessing, CJ and Sai create something from what could have been very devastating, or has been very devastating, but turning it into really kind of the blueprint of what we all, maybe not everyone would do well in a community, but the fact that it's possible now, I think is really encouraging for everyone. And I think once people see that, that should spread. So keep asking your questions. I have questions, but I'm watching you discover, because, this is inspiring. This is what we should be talking about without a doubt. For example, the fact that, creating, not only is it a living community, but it's a working community, and it's an, eating community, and it's inviting other people in the community to witness that and see that and just rethink what we can do for sustainability, for what we utilize. So, and I know you both have done a lot of research on tiny homes and sustainable home living. So, it's exciting to see, that conversation be had. This is what New Earth looks like in our heads, but watching you guys actually live it and create it and make it available to other people, and even make the conversation available to other people, is incredibly inspiring. So, Nataraja, what other questions are popping into your head? Because I'm watching you witness what you've been talking about. Because Nataraja and I have been talking about what does the new community look like? What does the new Earth look like? And I'm watching, CJ and Sai unfold it for all of us to discover. And I know it's a discovery for them too, but how cool that they're doing it, they're living it.
Yeah, can you both talk about as we know that there is the housing is looking different, and it's going to be looking different as we move forward, as a lot of people such as myself have been lost my apartment with and being laid off from COVID, and bouncing around across the country back and forth. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking at this as more people are going to be moved out of the housing market. As people are leaving the cities, what we're seeing is a lot of people are leaving the cities and gobbling up homes in smaller towns. And a lot of people who are in the towns are slowly losing their homes or being pushed out. And so I feel like we're going to be, and we're not even seeing it happen yet. I feel like we're going to definitely be seeing some serious housing crises over the next year or two. And so we're going to have to really be rethinking how we live, the way we've been living, and the sustainability of that. But also, as things have been shutting down and we're realizing we really don't need all the stuff and all the big this and the big that. And like, what is both of your perspectives of being in smaller spaces, being in community, and really like rethinking the way that we live with these big lavish houses, and how it is to live in a tiny home, and your perspectives of the importance of looking at that as we move forward in a new way of living?
Well, I think from my standpoint, I 100% wanted to downsize. There was a couple of reasons why. One, I was tired of tracking a bunch of stuff all over the place. And even I told Sai, I was like, well, think about it. If a hurricane comes to Florida, all we have to do is unplug and drive away, which is what we did a couple of years ago. And our whole house goes with us while everyone else is trying to board up their houses and hoping that it doesn't get any damage, which of course, a few of our friends got serious damage on their houses. We didn't have that problem because our whole house, everything we own, went with us. And the other part is I'm also going blind due to glaucoma, which we've been able to control. But having a smaller space for me allows me an opportunity to know where everything is and find it easier. We are looking to upsize from where we're at now because we're living in about 220 square feet into something, maybe around 400 to 500 square feet. A little bit more space would be nice. But we don't want to go too much bigger than that. And if we ever bought another house, it would definitely be under 1,000 square feet if we could, because living small like this has been a gift. I love it. I don't ever want to live in a large house ever again. The cleaning of it is easy. All the maintenance, the freedom that we have with it has been great. There's just a lot of positives in comparison to the negatives that people would think about. And you can configure like this school bus, people are configuring buses left and right. And we have literally saw in our own schoolie group that we belong to, that's a Florida-based group. That group, when we joined, only had like maybe 40 people. Now we've got over 300 that have bought buses, built buses, because they found that it's cheaper. You can buy, there's people selling buses anywhere from $28,000 to $60,000 that are fully built out. Or you can buy a bus yourself, around 10 grand or so, a good, decent bus, and build it out yourself for less than 50. So and you have a full-on home, everything that you need. I have everything in here. I don't need anything else, really, and that, I think, is where people have to realize. I taught a few how to simplify your life workshops over at the library a couple of years ago. And it was funny to hear people's such blockages, I guess would be the word for it, to smaller living. They were interested, but they weren't sure how they could do it because they didn't want to get rid of their stuff. And Sai and I when we left California, we had a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhome with a 2-car garage, and we had all the stuff in it. And I told Sai, when I said, well, we're selling the house. We're going to buy a 5x8 trailer. If it doesn't fit in the car and it doesn't fit in the trailer, it's not going. I'll let Sai tell you his part of that and how he reacted and then how he changed his reaction after a while. But you really learn a lot when you live small, and you really learn like what's important in life, because we've been able to travel more now. We've been able to do more things that we could not do before. People would ask us, hey, do you want to go to dinner? And we're like, we can't. We didn't have the money. We were struggling. Now we have residual income that comes in. Sai does his crystals. I do things on the side as well. And we're able to generate enough money in that makes us happy. And we realize we don't have to like make, hundreds of thousands of dollars to be happy, because then that comes with $100,000 worth of stress.
Right.
So this has been a really great experience from my standpoint. Sai might have a different opinion, but that's my opinion.
But as for me, when we was transitioning from this 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house in California to 2 cars and 5x8 trailer, initially when we were selling stuff, it was kind of difficult. I want to say, oh, I want to sell this, but then, oh, maybe not. So I put it back in back burner. But once I sold several stuff and start to feel the value of letting go, it was like all this energetic string that was attached to this stuff comes back to me. So I start to feel all this reservoir that we have with this stuff. So more and more stuff that I let go, all these energetic strings that was attached to that came back to me. So I felt this liberating feeling, this place that was never acknowledged before because it was so inundated with stuff. So after we downsized from a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhome to that 5x8 trailer, traveled to Florida and started living small, it was that liberating feeling and being able to just live out our dreams and not just get a job to earn a paycheck to, that perpetual pay your bills kind of thing. So when we found this place, and we was fortunate enough to always have that residual income and not like some other people who were spending 10, 15, 20 years at a job and then being let go because of COVID. Right. So we learned really quick that diversifying the stream of income is like the way to go. To if one stream falls, then you can redivert the energy to another. So that's when coming to this place, we found the opportunities where we can still have a 9-to-5 job, but have a place where we can start to develop our talents and pull in other people's talents to build a more egregore, a family kind of atmosphere that is like village kind of energy, where everybody starts to add their energy into this pot of culminated manifestation kind of energy, where that can be more of a concussive force to do the work that we need to do to balance out this world that is coming, that's here, actually.
Yeah. You're just saying that it's coming, it's here. And watching and witnessing the fact that you both are doing things that you're passionate about. We haven't even scratched the surface of how talented these two are, because, they are constantly diversifying. I think that was the key word that I keep hearing too, is that no longer is it just this intense structure of having to just work the 9-to-5, which a lot of people have lost, to pay, the mortgage or, the rent for, which rent prices and mortgage prices are going super high and becoming completely inaccessible to people. So, a lot of things are crumbling and falling apart, but what an opportunity to rebuild. Some of the diversification that we haven't talked about is writing children's books, putting out t-shirt lines, Angry Buddha. Like they're diversified artistically, and they're finding themselves. Sai is doing, his Angry Buddha clothing line. CJ has a whole kids series book. So like and there's more. Those are just the next two examples I can unfold of the discovery of how they're diversifying, and like Sai was talking about, finding their art and finding themselves in new ways, because they don't have to just do the one thing to be reliable. And I think that's going to set us all free, you know, is finding, discovering ourselves, healing, not having to be so stuck and put in a box. I think that's what a lot of people's main, like, depression and ailments have come through, was because of high frequency people trying to fit into a very low frequency box. And
Right.
I think we're all shedding this insane cocoon so that we're actually becoming ourselves. And while the transition has been a little bit awkward or even painful, the on the other side of it is, wow, art, creation, realizing that you can publish a book, or, you know, put out a t-shirt line. You know, those are, may seem small to you guys because you're just doing it so easily, but those are such significant dreams come true to so many people that didn't even know that they could do that. So, you know, I just wanted to maybe mention those other cool diversification things that you guys have been doing, because that really, what a celebration of life you can have now. Like, it's not, there's no sadness at your loss, really. I love how
Right.
positive this is. It's like a celebration of who we really are, and the fact that you're both walking through nature on a regular basis, because it's right there. um and, you know, and working with nature and cultivating how it can be an actual support system, and not just something we observe and then just, you know, click out of. Like, oh, ponds can have tilapia. You know, earth can grow vegetables and herbs. Oh, this is good for us. Even taking a walk is medicine. And it's changing that relationship, because you're both very, very, very spiritual people, and you were very spiritual people in California and then in Florida. But it's like you get to be more yourself than ever, because of
Right.
letting go of the extra weight of those bills and that, like, you know, expectation of normal society. Not to say that you're not normal, but you know, we're
Nah.
not, none of us are. And I think so many people are finding this moment of refreshment, of like, oh, and the fact that you have an outdoor event center, and community is inviting the opportunity to reinvent that entertainment side too, that I know that you guys come from. So that's another place to explore yourselves and your art and your creativity, and create a safe place for other people to do the same. But yeah, it's like this cocoon cracking and falling off of us, like, all together. And I've been noticing that more and more and more. I think we're all getting more comfortable with ourselves, um, shedding some of that weight of the old ways and creating new ways. What other ways do you guys think that's going to continue? What do you expect for the future of the age of Aquarius, of the new frequency, of the new Earth? What are some of the predictions of, you know, how the world is, because it is now, like you said, it's here. How do you think that, you know, people are going to discover themselves and discover the new ways through these sheddings that they're all experiencing? And how do they know how to get into smaller communities or smaller homes? How do people know how to find a new way to live?
But I feel as Gaia raises its vibration, we are naturally kind of forced to move up, or else we kind of be left behind, kind of thing. So all these, I say, adults who's thinking more of a adolescent headspace, they're kind of kicking and screaming, no, I don't want to evolve. I don't want to raise my vibration. I'm perfectly fine squatting in my stuff. But as we find these opportunities where we start to kind of realize we can start to tap into this new frequency, this higher frequency, we will be able to kind of not only acknowledge these lower things we've been holding on to as it bubbles up, so we can deal with it and kind of see it in a different point of view and release it in its entirety. But also when we make space, start to deprogram these programs that it's not working anymore.
Right.
You know, kind of evolving our way of thinking, evolving past our learned conditioning. we will see opportunities that there are more efficient ways of doing things, like coming together and pulling our resources together. Just relearning on how to work together again and start tapping in.
And
Beautiful.
I know for us here, a lot of it has to do when you're bringing people into the community too, is sort of finding the right people a lot of times. And we're entertainment. Well, I'm very entertainment based, and I've kind of dragged Sai along with me, but Sai is too in his own special way. And so all the people here have an entertainment background. The older couple I mentioned earlier, their daughter and son-in-law, they have a kids party company, and they dress up as characters and go out and do that. This Chelsea and Michael, we mentioned their forge, and Michael also does leather working. He's got a fantastic website on leather and the pottery, but they also love entertainment, and they dress up and do cosplay and all that kind of fun stuff too. So my friend as well that lives here, and then her friend that also lives here, also in the entertainment industry. So it's nice because it brings together, especially on an event-based location, it really gives us a group of people who are very, like you said, very diverse in what they do, that are bringing so many different elements to the community in just a very few amount of people. And their mindset is, I think probably us and the older couple are more the spiritual people on property. But everyone else is very open to receive that energy too. And that's important as well, is finding the people that are willing to be open to receive that kind of spiritual energy that we're putting out there in this group of people. And you get the people that, oh, you're hippies, y'all are tree huggers, whatever. Yes, we are. I 110, 25, 99% accept that, because that's what this world needs. We are here to be stewards of this planet, no matter what religious faction you may follow or spiritual faction you may follow. We are meant to be stewards of this planet. And I know we've got people looking into Mars and other planets, and I'm like, we have a beautifully, perfectly a planet that we live on now if we just take care of it, and work with Gaia's energy and be able to create this space. But people are always looking for the next best thing instead of taking care of what we already have.
Right.
And I would love to start seeing more shift in that direction. We've seen it, but I would love to see more of that, because I think that that's where we need to go in creating these types of communities for people.
And I think it's really, I think it's really also important for people to begin to hear more of this, of more that it is possible, because I feel like, especially in the United States, there's not a lot of people living in community, and I think that one of it is because there's not, we're so far removed from being in community and living in community in a way that we're collaborating and living on the same land and cooperating with each other, that a lot of people don't even know that is even possible. So this is like having these kind of discussions, and I'm really looking forward to having more and meeting more people and bringing more people on and talking about this, is because the more people begin to know that it is possible and seeing things differently. And Sai, when you were talking about like both of you actually talking about it, the production or the different skill sets. And I think this is an important thing, as one, American culture has a certain perspective of you have a career, you have a specialty, and there's a way of Americans looking at where we shift, like through life, we shift. I was like, now I want to learn crystals. I'm going to do crystals. And then I'm going to learn about tea ceremonies. And we have this perspective as, oh yeah, that's, you're not being serious or whatever. But actually we can look at it that way, or we can look at it another way, that as we move through life and have passions, those passions can become different ways that we're able to, what was once before is you doing that. No, you stay 40 years, you have a career, you stay in the same industry, you retire. Or we can look at it as like, you have a passion, your passions changes, you build skill sets, and now you're able to diversify, and you have offerings to the community and those passions. Whereas before we had production, and now we have passions and skill sets through passions. And I think that that's beautiful that we're hearing from both of you, that it seems like that's what you have been doing through the years, and now you're actually seeing this space created because of you have been living that way of being passionate about different things, and that becoming a skill.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. When I decided to change my mindset, being from a reactive kind of healthcare system, working in a pharmacy as a senior pharmacy tech, and changing the mindset to a more proactive approach, I went back to school, became a massage therapist, and that's when my skills start to develop, and these, I guess, quote unquote gifts started to be discovered. Being able to kind of feel people's energy and feel their pain, feel their emotions. And from that kind of skill set developed into developing, discovering crystals and going through all that road. But also piggybacking what CJ said about being stewards of the land. I think we need to start to kind of look up again, look up to the stars, and really discover there's more to the planet than just electronics. I think electronics and technology has its place, but I think we are off balance with that.
Yes.
When we start to disconnect from that and really kind of plug into Gaia, we can start to feel the value of balance, start to kind of plug in and remember that we took an oath to be stewards of the land, to start to become more aware of the cycles of Gaia, more cycles of the moon, cycles of the seasons, start to eat seasonally, which would be more sustainable, which would be happier to our body, because actually our body changes with the season, not only internally, but when I was working with that esthetician, she said our skin changes as well. So she made me remember that, we shouldn't just eat within season, but dress and do all the proper downtime with the season as well. So being able to kind of unplug to plug in mentality, to really discover your passions. And this will help to realize that we don't have to go to a job that's to earn the money. We can actually monetize our passions and be able to love what we do and earn money at the same time. I think that's what the opportunity with this COVID has taught me, that we don't have to do a 9-to-5 job to connect, to make money. Yes, we are social creatures and we want to be face to face because that's when the optimal energy exchange is. But during this time of readjusting and this interlude of raising our vibration and standing on a new higher state of being, we have to discover and let go of stuff that is holding back, the things that we are allocating time and energy to bring with us, instead of learning the lesson and let it go to the universe, so we can start to become and resonate at a higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I also, CJ, you were talking about there's like on the land, so it's what you're bringing, but there's also there's metalworking in the community. There's pottery making in the community. And I think that this is kind of like almost like a land. So it kind of operates a little bit like a land trust, because people have their own businesses off the land. You're working together. There's class event space, there's classes, there's teaching. And so part of that money comes back into the community, right? And then it's like reinvested into the community, but people have their own businesses. And there seems like there's like really beautiful, diverse skill sets on this property as well.
Yes.
That is going to be,
Like,
I mean, for like pottery making and like metal work it's huge as far as like being a sustainable community.
It is
Right.
very much so. Well, the fun thing is that, you know, once again, sitting around the family table, we're not prepper types or anything like that. However, we did have the discussion like, oh, well, literally we have the right group of people here. We have people who know how to hunt. They know how they're fine with having guns. They know they're okay with that kind of stuff. We also have the gardening. We have, like you said, the pottery. Like we could technically self-sustain ourselves if we needed to, you know, on the property if it were necessary.
Mm-hmm.
All because the skill sets we have people that can sew and have sewing machines, you know, like you said, the metalworking and the being able to pottery and be able to make, you know, containers to store things and that sort of thing. So it's a really cool experience for us and the people that we have here at this moment, that are, and even the temporary people that have come in and out, you know, just for a few days and all, have been great. Like most of the time they come here and they're, well, how could we help you do something while we're here? You know, is there anything we could help you with? We've never had anyone come out here and just not want to help or do anything, even if it's just for 1 or 2 nights. And it's because they see, I think, what we're building here, and it kind of keeps the door open for them if they want to come back, you know, sort of thing. And we like it because every now and then we get a couple of new people in and it's fun, and, you know, we get to meet some new people. And then they go off and do their life, and then, you know, maybe somebody else will come in. And so it's a really cool, it's just a really cool vibe how everybody can bring such, you know, neat aspects to where we're at. So we think of it more as like a working community village, but at the same time, we could self-sustain ourselves if we absolutely had to. And I think that's a neat safety, I want to say safety, but a neat kind of thing to think about, being able to have a sustainable community that does, you know, grow all their own food and fish and you know, and able to cook together and you know, there's plenty of exercise on the property. You know, we put a gym in, you know, so we can all exercise, and you know, we have the kayaks and things that we can take out onto the lake. We are on a well system here, so we're not relying on water from the city, you know. So it's kind of cool because I know last year some of the places around here, they were on city water, and during the hurricane they were having water issues, and we didn't have water issues because we were on the well system. So between well and solar, we're doing, you know, pretty well on that out here.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it is. It's huge.
Changes things. Yeah, it just really makes your sustainability possible.
Right.
You know, which
And also another perspective of what's happening here is when we have a village working together on a common goal and people are happy here, it's kind of making me think, and that's how vortexes are starting to develop. Like we have a like-minded group of people all on the same wavelength, creating happiness and joy. We start to not only create this circle and funnel of energy around here, we're healing the land. We have this transit people coming in every now and then, having event space coming in. I think when people feel the healing as they come and step into our space, people come here, get to feel raise the vibration a little bit. Maybe even when they go home, they can start to develop their own epicenters of joy and happiness. So I think not only village community is happening, but we're starting to develop a vortex of happy and joy and positive energy in this space.
And I heard that when you have a positive thought in the frequency of just love and gratitude, that affects 750,000 people around you. When you have a negative thought, it doesn't reach very many people. Yeah, it affects a little bit, but you literally, when you just hold a frequency, so imagine, 10 people holding the frequency of love and gratitude and trusting a sense of community instead of feeling isolated. That teaches us to reconnect to each other and to the land and to Gaia,
Yes.
and I think that just you practicing that in that small version of the community is honestly affecting 1 million or more, 2 million, 3 million other people in resonance. And I think that is exactly how people are going to know that you exist and that these options exist, is because we're sending out the frequency. Yes, they'll also know because events will happen and, stories like this will get out. But I think even just all of us resonating in a different way and reconnecting, I think, and even a small micro scale will honestly wake part of that people up. I know we affected people. I know that anytime we heal something in ourselves, we heal it in cosmic consciousness. Anytime we reconnect, just to a knowing inside of us, it affects everyone, in around us. And
Absolutely.
I think we are healing the world. I know that's a bold statement, but I think each and every day, the tiniest things that we do, is like we undervalue those. We were taught to that, planting, a rosemary plant doesn't have value. That literally, I think, heals the world because of what you just said, because it does ripple out a frequency of love and gratitude into the world.
Mhm.
And we know that it's possible to trust ourselves, trust each other, and find new ways to be connected again to Gaia and each other, and that we're all on the same team, and it's not always against each other and afraid of each other, but actually really inspiring each other and awakening to our 5D self, awakening to our higher frequency love self, which is always right there. It's just that we got weighed down and it was too heavy. And now the act of shedding, that old way of life is actually just holding space. I'm getting chills for, who we all really are. And that is sending out the frequency to wake everybody else up. So good job, you guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Everybody to remember that they all have the opportunity to drop that pebble and that ripple through that 5D frequency. Everybody has
Yes.
that accessibility to that.
Right.
Yes,
And-
it's right
and
here.
even-
It's right here.
And the events that we're doing out here too we're partnering with charities as well. So we're giving back through that too. So like the Witches Ball, we're getting ready to partner with Transfiguring Adoptions, which is all about helping adopt and foster care system. And the interesting thing is it goes along with sort of the theme, this magical, mystical world that we're creating. It goes with that theme because they actually teach children and adults too, but the children, especially in foster care system, how to deal with trauma through Harry Potter.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
Wow.
really actually quite interesting what they've done, and they've actually created some very good psychological or therapeutic type of books and things centered around that concept. They're also getting ready to launch an adult 101 class for these kids that are going to be aging out of the system and don't know how. They don't have the life skills they need to be able to survive out there as well. So we're getting very involved with them through the Witches Ball and maybe some other events too. I'm really impressed with them, and they're local. So we're able to support a good local charity as well. And they're just the neatest, coolest people. But that's the thing is even when we do events out here, we always want to be able to give back to the community around us, and that's important. So with the witches ball, that's one of the ones that we're going to make sure we're giving back. And in return, they're coming on board and helping us with the marketing and the PR and, you know, getting it out there. And so it was a really good synergy when I met with them and talked to them. And I think we need to do more of that. I know a lot of charities I've worked with in the past where I've been on the board of directors or I've gotten involved one way, shape, form, or fashion. And I've had some of the people in the charity go, oh, great, thanks for that event. We'll show up that night and pick up the check. But it's like, you know, they're not wanting to get involved or do any of the help with them. And it's when you're doing an event like that, you want to create a synergy with the charity you're working with that really is excited about it and they want to do it, not just show up and pick up a check. And so when you're working with that, I think that's also part of the sustainable community that we're talking about,
Right.
because there is a reciprocation or an energy exchange there with each other to help each other out in that community. And I love that idea. And I've always, Sai and I, there's two big things we love to work with is, you know, the foster care kids and all, and animals, of course. So, and it's been great. And I know Sai wants to get more involved with some of the animal charities as well. So we're looking to partner with some of them on some of the other events. But this one's been a great one. And it sort of was introduced to us through some of the people on the property who knew them. So it was once again, community sharing, you know, so it's cool.
I have a question. I know that a lot of, as I've been walking through this world, a lot of people, I know land and land access and permitting and so on and so forth is a huge restriction for, as a lot of communities are looking at, I don't even know it is impossible. Being able to access land is one. And you are on a property that's owned by an individual and everyone's pooling in on rent. So I wanted to talk about, you know, maybe just, you know, not from your own personal experience, what your situation is, but as we are moving forward, and your awareness and your perspectives, if you can talk to that piece a little bit, as more people are going to be living on land, living together, reinventing how we live with each other, and possibly sharing land and being on tiny homes, and the permitting piece, and how do you do that, and how do you access, and how do you collaborate? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I can. I'm not as privy to it as the landowner himself, but
Okay.
But at the same time, I am privy to some of that information, so I can share what I know. It is a private property, you know, at that point. So what we had to do is there are certain things that had to be done on a checklist before we could get the property zoned where it needed to be.
Okay.
So we've had to get a lot of infrastructure in place, electric, water systems, septic, that kind of thing. And so once all that is done, and they can sign off on it, then we're able to go in and get some type of rezoning for it. But there was all this infrastructure and things that had to happen first.
And so it's rezoned as what? Is it rezoned as what now?
He's not sure yet. He's got to talk to him because they can either rezone it as an RV park, which they don't want to do, or he can just get it permitted to have extra residents on the property.
Okay.
You know, kind of thing. So we're not sure yet. We're back and forth. We're probably about a year and a half away to getting all that done because he has the checklist and we've been going down it and trying to get everything done on the property that was going to be required for that. So that's all I can say really about it. And I'm going to tell you, every county, every city is different.
Right.
And some are more of a nightmare to work with, and some of them are open to opportunities. So you kind of have to just like check around before you do it, and, you know, get connected within the political system that you're going to have to deal with when doing that, which is important.
And even as the cities and counties are moving forward, and I feel like we're going to be looking at, and I'm seeing more like tiny home communities coming online.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at this, and where the cities and the counties are going to be forced to really like rethink, zoning and permitting,
They
to
are,
allow more creative ways of living. This is
right?
going to happen.
There is a community over in, it's over in the Melbourne area of Florida on the Daytona side, New Smyrna and all that. And there was a young woman there who needed to downsize, and she wanted to go into a tiny house. And it took them about 2 years working with the city. Initially, they weren't as receptive to it, but she was able to bring in, some information that kind of helped. And schoolies, the school buses, are not as looked at as nicely and kindly as the tiny houses are, because they look like school buses. You can't really make them look too much like a house. But the tiny houses you can, and you can make a neat little community look neat. And that's what they want, because they're concerned with property value. So what they did is they bought the city actually got involved with this individual and was able to get them a good deal on some city land that they had. It wasn't a huge amount of land, but it was small enough where they could put, like, I think 8 tiny houses on it.
Mhm.
They had a decent sized yard, but they had certain requirements. Like, it had to have like, you couldn't see the wheels and stuff underneath it. So you had to have some kind of siding that went around it that made it look like it was a stable house.
Right.
It had to have a deck of some sort with stairs. Like, there were certain things that they were requiring that you had. But once they put it all in, the community is the cutest little tiny house community that you've seen, because it looks like your normal neighborhood.
Right.
But it's just 8 tiny houses in there around this little cul-de-sac type thing. And so it's possible, but once again, it's just getting involved with the local, political environment, and seeing what you can do to, who you can talk to, and who. It is a political thing. It would be a political game to
Right.
play, because you have to find the right people to connect with. But it's not impossible. It's just working with those people and trying to shift old ideas to something new.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that are great they're right there for progress. And then you've got some people that are like, no, that's going to bring down my property value, and they're going to fight it tooth and nail. So you do have to kind of have to work with that a little bit, but it's not impossible at all. It's just, it might take some time and, a little bit of political activism.
And with necessity, things might change too,
Yeah.
Because, and we're all in this together. So even people who maybe used to be one way energetically because of, what's happening with 5D, everybody's changing. We're all in this, just some people take longer than others, but
Yes.
it is worth it. It's worth it, because some even, the politicians that didn't know about this are now learning. And imagine how much, a lot's going to change, and there's going to be a lot of issues with housing that are going to come up and make us look at it. But imagine how healing this can be on the homeless community and the foster kid community,
Oh, yeah.
creating things that are actually viable for them to maintain a community and
Right.
a home that's accessible to them, to people that didn't have accessibility to homes before. And now that will create another level of stability. And, that's going to have a huge effect on mental health on a larger scale.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, there's so many layers to this that, even just presenting an argument to like rezoning gets people thinking, of solutions. And it's going to be really needed in the next coming year or so, as people are foreclosing on their houses because they can't pay rent anymore. And then it's going to really, force people to look, but how healing will that be in communities that were overlooked? And now they get to have this bridge of accessibility to a healthy, sustainable life that wasn't possible. And because of the zoning issues, because I know working with Humanity Villages, John Moore, who's trying to create sustainable possibilities for homeless communities to have small homes or anything possible, because there's so many solutions, but it's really the government, the local politicians that have to be working towards the solution with, the active, the proactive, humanitarians who are out there on the front lines. I think this is
Right.
going to build a bridge in so many ways that it's possible to live in a different way. And it's going to create the people that didn't have the stability in lives. It's going to create a new chance for stability and wellness and healing. And,
True.
man, the implications of that are just mind-blowing, staggering. I know I make everything so big, but it feels big. And, so I'm shouting it out that there's that level. It's worth the fight of going in and telling your local, code maker, like, this is worth it.
Yeah,
And,
it's got to move in this direction.
and sometimes the cities, because I've heard these conversations before, the cities that are originally their code makers were like, no, we can't get permits for that. We don't want this kind of new way of thinking. And then their other government officials kind of push them out. And then new people start show up, conversation can get going. So
Can get going again.
it's happening. So yes.
Yes. And I also want to touch on the mental, because I think CJ, you had mentioned mental health, and Meka, you did as well. And I feel like there's a lot of what's happening in our current climate of people feeling isolated,
Right.
people feeling disconnected or unable to be to be with other people, and how being in a community, and I just wanted to get your perspective of being in a community in a place of isolation and disconnection. How has that helped, and what is your perspective of this feeling of isolation and disconnection with other humans, and how living in community is actually, as we're moving forward, it's like we're going to be looking at how to be with people differently, and the mental health aspects of being in a community and being with people and being able to feel safe in a small group of people. And can you speak to?
I can tell you that with the community out here, the interesting thing is, over the past year, there's been, people on and off the property, but I'll tell you, not one person has gotten sick with COVID. Everybody has been respectful of one another. And when we meet, we always meet outside somewhere.
Well, I'm not actually talking about, I'm talking about more this sense of being of isolation and the
well,
mental
that's where
health.
that's what I was going with that.
Okay,
is that
okay.
we don't feel isolated, because though we're a small community out here, we do have people we can talk to, and we are on property that we can walk around on. We can go outside and we can walk down to the lake. We can be in nature. And so a lot of these people that are feeling isolated, they live in a neighborhood with houses that are so close to one another, but they're not all friends. They don't all know each other.
Okay.
And so even though some of them do, but not a lot of them reach out to their neighbors. You sort of have your own life, you live it, and that's your house and that's where you live. Whereas with us out here, it's not like that. Because we're all friends, we know one another. We have people to talk to, if we want to. We can go outside and, we all have pets, we'll go outside with the dogs, or, like I said, go down to the lake. So the isolation for us, I know a lot of people were struggling with that this past year because of that. But now I can't speak for Sai once again either, but for myself, I haven't felt isolated at all. If anything, I felt great. I haven't had that mental breakdown of isolation and, oh my God, I can't wait to get out, because I'm already out. I mean, we're 7 acres, we have a place that we can hang out and do things.
Right.
And we have a diverse if, you know, we talk to Chelsea and go, girl, I'm bored today, let's go make some pottery. And we're like, okay, let's go make some pottery. You know, we'll go do that. Or, hey, what about firing up the forge and we'll melt all these, you know, like we take all of our aluminum cans and we don't recycle them. We take them to the forge and we melt them all.
Oh,
And
cool.
we make pucks out of them, and then they store them, and then they can use those to make into other things, you know, jewelry or whatever. So all of our cans, they're trying to figure out what to do with the bottles. So in other words, we have ways of connecting with each other.
I love that. Yeah.
You know, Michael and Chelsea, they made homemade mead. They make homemade mead. So we do these cool things together, and it keeps us connected. And so the isolation has not been a problem. And I think that is what these small communities offer.
That's what I was wanting to get at.
Yes,
is exactly that, because like living in these communities, what we're speaking, and currently, you know, where I'm at, I'm moving back to Florida, thank God.
Yay!
Yay. Currently I'm in Oregon, and Oregon has been in lockdown pretty much the entire year. And I know quite a few teenagers, friends, you know, son, you know, children who have committed suicide. And you know, schools just started back a month ago. So the feeling of isolation and the especially in states where the lockdown has been extremely intense, and I don't know that, you know, in many states are looking at anything different, but looking at communities and smaller communities and sustainable communities as a way of being able to, one is to address these feelings of isolation in general in American society, right?
Right.
You know, and this is something that has not just been this year. This is, like we were talking about, it was like you live in a suburban home and you don't know your neighbors, and you go to your job and you go home and you close the door, and then that's it.
Right. It's true. It's true. And people, they lose that connection with one another when you're living in a little, you know, community like this. And you know, this isn't going to be our final resting space either. Sai and I are looking for, you know, maybe we want to do our own land somewhere and do something like this too. I mean, if we're able to buy the other land here, you know, there's land around us that it's not for sale, but it is owned by a developer, and it might, you know, there's always an opportunity, you know, you never know. But if we could, we would, and we would expand it somehow. But once again, like you see a lot of these people who are retiring, and they're going in with their friends and they're buying property and putting these small houses on the property, like little, so it's like, oh, all my friends that I'm best friends with, we know each other. So we're okay with being neighbors, and we'll go out and talk to one another. And it's just bringing strangers in, you never really know. And so you do want to keep that in mind, but you know, you want to be open, you know, to the opportunities that are out there, because there's so many of them that could come along and offer a really cool experience, you know, for you. But with small community also comes that everybody knows everybody's business, you know. It's like in a small town sort of thing, and you have to be okay with that, because you know, it's sort of like it takes a village to raise a child kind of concept. And it really does. It takes a village to kind of be that connection with one another, because you don't have that isolation. Because people have isolation now, they just don't realize it. They isolate themselves at home, then they go to work, they're isolated at work. Yes, they're among people, but they're working the whole time. And a lot of times they're not really necessarily always friends with the people they work with. Right. And then they go back home. So this isolation the past year has just been that they've been stuck in the house the whole time, and they couldn't really go.
Right.
You know?
Like, yeah, exactly.
So I think it's just something that people have to start looking at things a little bit differently through a different pair of glasses.
Yes. Right. And I think that's just going to happen. And it's beautiful that you have been in this beautiful, and I feel like in my own way, a bit of a cocoon. And you've been in this beautiful cocoon, Sai, with your beautiful butterfly behind you, and being on this on a piece of land and being able to like, you know, crystallize this and really like be an example of, I feel like what's coming for a lot more. And as people are reconnecting to being stewards of the land, I feel like this is going to be more and more where humans are finding themselves.
Right.
Being in a place of spiritual awareness and healing, and collaboration and community building and sustainability. And I'm excited. I'm so excited to learn more from both of you and to hear what you're doing. And I love the fact that you're offering classes and all of the different skills that each of you on the property have are offering that to the community. And you were talking, Zidia, you're talking about like being able to like be in community, just doing that and having the different skills that both of you have and the different people who are in your community have, and you're extending those offerings to the community, which
Right.
is, for, as me as a mom, that's what I want my daughter to be. You know, I want my daughter to be like, you know, in a whole like community of individuals such as yourself, and learn about like massage and crystals, and learn about, you know, forging and, you know, leather working, and being raised in a way that that she is seeing real life happen.
So how do we find out about the classes? How do we look in? How do we reach you guys? How does the world
well,
find out what you have to offer?
Yeah, there's a couple of websites. So we have isleofvalhalla.com.
Okay.
ISLEOFVALHALLA.com. So that's kind of the community website there, where, you know, people, if we have tent camping on the property too, so we have outdoor heated showers, we have public restrooms. So if people wanted to stay out here, you know, just to come out and do a tent camping, we can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
You can also book a, you know, if we have an available RV spot there, you can book it on the website. But we also have an event page there that has all the events that we hold out here. We try to keep that up there. I know like the stage combat class is the one that's coming up next in May. She hasn't quite got everything ready for the pottery class, but as soon as she does, we're going to get that up there as well.
Okay.
And the leather working and all that kind of thing.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, and Sai's already done a jewelry class out here once with our an event that we did out at the drum circle we had. So we're always offering things there. You can also go to our website, which is TEA and A&D Tarot TAROT Emporium EMPORIUM Tea and Tarot Emporium.com. And on there we have the events that we're doing as well. But we also have some video on there of all these events that my production team has done in the past. We have our merchandise on there, like Size Angry Buddha t-shirt line. My teas are on there that I've blended. Sai has crystals and stuff he's been putting on there as well.
Okay.
However, he has been doing a lot of live crystal stores, which he's got one tonight on, but I'll let him talk about that.
A live crystal store?
Yeah, he does a live online crystal store every week.
Yeah, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do live crystal sales.
That's awesome. I've never heard that before. That's great.
Yeah.
That's cool. You guys are amazing. I love that. And so when we post this to YouTube as well, we'll include the links. If you go ahead and send me those links, and I'll include them, so people are able to like learn more about you. And I super thank you for your time and all that you're offering in your knowledge sharing here, but also what you're offering to the communities that you are affecting and the people who live around you and who are experiencing your beautiful amazingness. I really thank you for this conversation.
Thank
you. I want to have more.
Oh, absolutely.
Opportunity. Appreciate that.
There's so many.
There's so many conversations to have.
This is just the beginning.
And then also, Meka, you were going to be working. You're going to be doing you're all working together to do a Shaman Fest as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Urban Shaman
Yes.
Fest, the first weekend in November.
Okay.
So
Yep.
we'll all be talking about it.
That'd be
You can
fun.
help, Nataraja.
Oh, I'm gonna be in Florida, you know it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being back and being, and yeah, and when I met both of you, I was just super excited. Sai, your the magic that you are creating in this little magical forest. I really want to be able to see that creation, because this is something that I feel like this connection to Gaia, this new energy that we're talking about, is really tapping into this magic in nature that I feel like it's going to be emerging more and more as people are, you know, coming online, is like
Yes.
on the 5D line, and people are awakening and the lights are popping off, and the magic of nature and connection and community is and so I'm excited to see what you guys are creating out there. So I want to come and visit in the next month.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yay! What a joyful conversation. Definitely such an exciting honor to celebrate you both and everything you're doing. So yeah.
Celebrate
Thanks
us all. We all should be celebrated for sure.
Exactly.
Yes. I love that.
Well, I thank you both very much, and we will be checking out your websites and sharing your beautiful offerings.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for having us on. We appreciate it.
All
Keep
right.
being high frequency. Awesome.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste.